Now we'll move to our next session. I would like to request Mr. Bikram Barua, Assistant Director, National Power Training Institute, Ministry of Power, Government of India, to continue the next session, please. Over to Mr. Barua.
Thank you, Dr. Dalimi ma'am. Good afternoon to all of you. Our next speaker has already joined. He is Mr. Nanu Kachari. Sir is a scientific technical of science and engineering, Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. He is a master's in computer science with specialization in information technology from Indian Institute of Technology. He is enthusiastic about open source. He is a fan, and he continues to advocate the usage of free open software, source software. So without any further delay, I would like to pass on the baton to Kachari sir. Kachari sir, please.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Am I audible? Is my video available?
Video is not available, sir, but you are very much audible, sir.
Okay. So, so fine. So, yeah, can you see me now?
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Hi. So, hi everyone. Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here. I really thank the organizers for inviting me here. And basically, I would like to share all the the experience and that I have gathered down the years in my journey through by using open source. I'd like to share it with you. I would like to present a disclaimer before we move ahead. The opinions that I would present out here by no means may be the opinions of the institution I'm affiliated with. These are my personal opinions. But I would like to share why the open source is so important and what we can do with it and how we can make the most of it. So I took the permission of Madam Dalami to make this presentation a bit a little bit out of normal, because I don't have a presentation slide with me. I'd like to keep it more interactive if possible. And basically, I don't claim to know everything, but I would like to share my experiences with you all. And I think the format that I would like to move ahead with is basically I'll play you a series of short videos because I think the time is very short. Probably for me to, because I can't speak so long, that's another thing. But then in the short span of time, I would like to give you a brief. Instead of me speaking unscripted fashion, I would like to share some videos which probably will condense the entire message that I would like to present here today. And I would like to really appreciate for inviting me, and I'm so glad that I'm here. So without any further ado, let me share my thoughts on this. So I'm just cutting off my video and probably I'll be sharing my screen. So just bear with me. Thank you. I think all of us would need a little bit of music after, a long session that you had, a very fruitful session. So, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Then sure.
Okay, thank you there. So I'm just stopping this music because I would like to play start the video presentations. So just bear with me a minute.
It's a model for making and sharing content and software in a way that lets you build collaboratively and codely. This is how we at Mozilla think about open source in our projects and in our communities.
Open source means that I can see what's going on in my computer whenever I'm running a particular program. So I know what it's doing, I know how it's doing it.
Having the ability to control the software that you're using so that it does what you want and you can change it to serve whatever purposes you need it to serve.
Open source means that other people can use your work and share freely.
I can contribute back to the project. I can make my changes, make some improvements, and propose them to the original author.
Open source allows you to step into a group, say I don't know, and someone will come and offer you guidance and their insight. You learn with another person beside you, even though you might be worlds apart.
It's a strong opportunity for to reduce the digital gap between developed country and developing countries, so it's kind of bring everyone together.
Lots of people think that when their stuff is on GitHub, it's automatically open source. Just because it's on GitHub doesn't make it open source. You also need to have the correct open source license that lets it be used and remixed by other people.
I love the community that can form around open source. I like the idea that someone can just put an idea out there in source code. And a community can form around making that source code better.
If I want to develop my own software, I'm not alone.
So I really dig that you're not really just thinking about your own successes, you're thinking about the successes of the community around you.
One of my favorite open source projects is called Whimsy. It's an add-on for Firefox. And because it's open source, anyone around the world can find a gift they love and add it to Whimsy.
There's this great tool called Abstract that allows you to treat design as code.
I really like the email client a lot because we get through a lot of email without too much pain.
Open Data Kit is a open source mobile data collection software.
I have a soft spot for Firefox because that's what I work on for a living.
Whenever you have diverse groups working on a project, you get different voices, different opinions, you see problems you wouldn't have seen before, and you reach a broader group of people with whatever you're trying to build.
When you're a collective of individuals struggling and learning and achieving the same goals, you better buckle up because anything is possible.
Most people understand that open source software is software copied for free. What's less understood is how the potential chaos of all these copies can be transformed into a collaborative whole. Let's break down how open source works, using a family cookie recipe as a metaphor we can all relate to. Just like code, all recipes start by somebody writing the original version. In this case, Grandma May has developed a delicious cookie recipe. She shares it with her family, telling them they can use her recipe as long as they follow her rules. In Grandma May's case, anyone who bakes cookies with her recipe has to credit her as the author. And if they make changes to her recipe, she has to be allowed to use those changes in future versions of the recipe. Same thing happens when someone writes and publishes an original version of open source software. They put rules, called licenses, in place so that others can use and change the code they've written as long as they follow the author's license. Grandma May's recipe provides her family with a place to start that they can customize to their own liking. Aunt Maria decided to add chocolate chips to her batch of cookies. In software, this departure from the original code is called a branch. Aunt Maria's change was such a great success with everyone who tasted the cookies that she asked Grandma May to add chocolate chips to her original recipe. At this point, Grandma May needs to be acting as a maintainer, looking after the integrity of the original recipe and deciding which changes she will incorporate. In this case, Grandma May agreed that the chocolate chips were a good addition, and so from then on, Grandma May's recipe included chocolate chips. Aunt Maria is now a contributor because she has contributed something to the recipe. In open source software development, this process of incorporating a change or patch into the original code is called upstreaming because it's flowing back to the original source. If the original brand of chocolate chips becomes unavailable, Grandma May is responsible for updating the upstream chocolate chip patch with a new brand because she accepted the patch. The benefits of incorporating your changes into the original recipe are pretty amazing, leading to the popular open source motto, upstream early and often. The sooner you upstream, the sooner the community can back you up, not only by maintaining the recipe, but also by testing it in as many configurations as there are community members using it. Uncle Miles went out on a limb and added peanut butter and nuts to his batch of cookies. His wife and friends all love peanut butter, so they thought his additions greatly improved the original recipe. But when Uncle Miles tried to upstream these nutty changes, Grandma May, who detests peanut butter, refused to add peanut butter and nuts to the recipe. Uncle Miles resolved to move on with his version of the recipe with no plans of merging the two again at any point. In open source software development, a permanent flip like this is called a fork. Grandma May's recipe is getting better all the time as people continue to contribute. Her family gets to learn from and enjoy the latest and newest cookie recipes as they are created. As Grandma May's family grows and her recipes share out as the family, more and more people will become contributors. As you can imagine, things could get pretty complicated for Grandma May as the maintainer of the original recipe with more contributors. Same is true for open source software. More contributors and more versions of code make it essential that we have a way of collaborating on changes. This is why we need the structure, common language, and rules we just talked about with our recipe example. Now let's recap really quickly. Someone writes an original version of the open source software. They set rules around how it can be used and changed called licenses. This gives contributors a starting point to then branch out from and make changes or patches. Some request their changes to be upstreamed to merge their new version with the original version. The maintainer decides to incorporate the change. It becomes part of the main branch and will be maintained by the community even if the contributor stops being involved in the project. Sometimes, software is taken in a direction that we know will not be incorporated back into the original version. This kind of permanent split is called a fork. Open source has the potential to be complicated because it's created by communities of people. But these ways of working manage communities, making it possible to benefit from new versions from an authoritative source, the maintainer. Actual products based on open source can be made up of dozens, even hundreds of recipes like Grandma May's, which is why having a disciplined way of managing change is so important. In open source, the possibilities are endless, but we need the rules and roles to keep things organized.
Okay, thank you for so much for bearing with me there. I believe there's some bandwidth issues, so the videos are not playing. So I've shared it in the chat, so maybe you can go through them later. I mean, why videos are so effective? Because, you know, in a very short span of time, you will be able to grasp a few concepts. And the basic, I thought that, you know, the basic concepts of open source would be there, because open source doesn't mean only with software. It is with respect to hardware, with respect to design, with respect to art, music. You know, there could be, it's basically a school of thought where you can share your ideas, and you may have a very good idea, but that idea may not be perfect in the sense it could be only you know, perfect for some specific setting, but it may not be one size fits all kind of a solution. But when you put your idea across to the community, and you allow participation and allow innovations to happen, so that's how an idea can become a global movement. So that's the basic, you know, the crux of open source. And since what I feel is, are you able to view the video? Are you able to see me? Okay. So, so basically, I would just like to, you know, bring your attention to one particular thing that you may be aware of, and that's the Government of India, MHRD, Department of Human Resource and Development, had this national mission that, you know, it was the mission document was formulated in way back in 2009. And there's a mission document that is available, and based on that, you know, a lot of background activity was happening all across the education industry and the education, you know, policy. And, you know, we have the national education policy also, which has been announced recently. So a lot of changes happening there in the education, very challenging, not only challenging, but really, really very, very interesting, you know, days ahead for educationists. And a lot of, you know, technology-enabled learning will be the next thing. So coming back to the national mission on education through information communication technology, you must have heard of NPTEL videos. You must have heard about the Sakshat portal, where the Government of India is trying to make available all the, you know, educational contents to be used by colleges and institutions all over India, whether it is public or private, as well as, you know, virtual labs, where in case, you know, you are not aware, virtual lab component is a very important component of not only, you know, the science and engineering subjects, but also now in arts and, you know, other fields as well. So the virtual lab project is also there, where labs are either remote labs are there, or, you know, virtual simulated labs are available for you to try out the basic concepts. And once you are conversant with those, you can, you know, when you walk inside a lab, you would be used to the setup, and you will not be, you know, beating around the bush and trying to find out what exactly you need to do. So all these things are basically tools. Not a single one of them would mean that it would give you a complete, you know, solution to what you are trying to do or what you're trying to achieve with regards to education. But there are so many tools there. And the best way to go about building anything in today's world is community participation. That's what open source is all about. You call it software, you call it, you know, design, you call it art, music, you call it hardware, because though it's not so recent, but definitely open hardware is also the next big thing that's happening. If you have followed the news, or if you follow technology news, you might have heard about a lot of things that are out now. So, even the big corporates, the big organizations who are into a hardware business, they've also realized that proprietary, systems probably will not achieve that level of innovation that is required to, sustain. Basically the videos that I've shared, these videos contain a lot of information regarding the basic concepts of open source and what is proprietary and all that. So you may know, but just to keep us all in the same page, let me just tell you a few things that should be cleared before we go ahead with it. So basically, what happens is there are two models or two modes of doing business in terms of software or be it in terms of hardware, and that is when an organization brings out a product, let's say it's a software or let's say it's a hardware. So what happens is there would be a lot of design issues that will be there, which they might have spent a lot of resources in terms of monetary as well as man hours building that particular design hardware or software. And so they feel that there is a need for them to protect the intellectual property, and they would not release the source, be it the design of the hardware or be it the software code. And so what would happen is they would sell the product, but they will not share what exactly it does, how it does. That's proprietary to them. So they will not share what's the inner workings of the model, but they would share the product. So what would happen is when you are using the product and you come into some issues with it, say some bugs, maybe if it's a software bug, or there could be a hardware issues also. There could be a design flaw, there could be a design bug. So all these things, if you face, then you'll have to wait for it to be fixed by the manufacturer, by the producer, by the organization that is dealing with this particular product. So that is proprietary, closed system. But open source is, say you have an idea and you share the code, or you share the design, the hardware design, or you share the the melody or maybe the art. So what would happen is you will put it out in the community, and this is how it works. The community will get involved in, if that idea is a good idea, the community might agree to contribute, and so contributors would be there, and they would contribute to the idea. And if there are some things that needs to be added or improved in the design, in the code, they would contribute to that, and together you will have basically community participation in the entire process. And so that would lead to faster innovation, more people getting involved, the entire community getting involved, and that would the possibility is limitless. So that's what is basically the power of open source in all aspects of our society now. And I'm sure you are aware that most of the mobile phones that we are using, it does have an open source operating system in it if you are using Android. But if you are using Windows Phone, probably is out of the market now. But if you are using, say for example, Apple, products. So Apple is a proprietary software and as well as hardware company. So they don't share their design, they don't share their code. But Android is open source. Similar to Android, there are other software also that is available. So basically, open source doesn't mean that things are available for free always. It would mean that the source, the internal workings of be it a software or hardware is available to the user. and it is up to the user. If the user wants to know what's happening inside and wants to tweak the code, so it is available. And the other thing is, there probably you might have in social media also come across a lot of news about spyware and things being there within the hardware that listens to your activities and listens to the so okay, so should I shut down the video? I mean, like, if the video quality is poor. Can you see me? Am I audible? Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll continue. So yeah, so basically, so you might have come across all this in the news, and it may be true, and it may not be the whole truth as well. So basically, if you have open source hardware, if you have open source software, there are developers all across the globe, and these are people also who probably have not met, and they are working together for certain things. So they will all be able to see what is inside the code, what the code exactly does, or if it is a hardware, what actually the hardware does, and so nothing would be hidden. So everything is transparent and open to the community, and the community knows exactly what's happening. So that's open source. Now, open source is not only related to what I already stated, that is software, hardware, art, art being music as well, and creative designs, engineering designs, or any kind of design, like how to make even maybe a recipe. So it doesn't only end there. Open source also could mean the entire society, fabric of our society, where things about governance maybe, probably our voting systems, those kind of things. So there could be endless applications of open source, and it is not only limited to computers. It could be to the way our society functions. So I think enough of talk. So I would like you to I think we should discuss. I think that's the main thing. If you have anything that I can help you with, I don't claim to be a guru on this, but every day I work and also develop open source tools, and I'm a very a proponent of advocating open source usage, because it's not about the money, that it doesn't cost anything, but I feel that earlier, maybe 10 years ago, open source softwares were not very well written, in the sense that less people were involved. So these were not people didn't like, probably, or it was not as user friendly, so to say, if you will. Maybe at that moment when Windows and the Macintosh operating systems, they were the forerunners of this. And the open source software, like operating system like Linux, was like in the background, and all. It's I think in the early 90s only that Linux actually came into being, and the user interface was not well written, in the sense like it was not user friendly. It was mostly for power users and people who are developing the software and working in the core computer science fields. But slowly it evolved, and at the moment, probably I've been using open source software, I think, for past 10-15 years now. So for all my activities, all my tools that I require, like say for example, GIMP is there, GIMP is there, which I replaced Photoshop with. Not that I'm a professional editor, but for my need, for my daily need, for my image manipulation and everything that I need, I use GIMP. Then LibreOffice, then Then you have like OBS for creating videos and all that, and also OneShot for, because OBS doesn't have the, the timeline that you have to, cut videos short and, do the editing. So you can use OpenShot to edit your videos in a timeline, and it's a very powerful editor as well, very simple. Then for your graphics animation and all that, you've got Blender, which is a very good video graphics editing utility. Then you have something called DIA for diagram, for drawing your diagrams, like you have, I think, Microsoft Visio, if I'm not mistaken. So that kind of, and then, so there are alternatives, open source alternatives to each and every productivity tool that you would be using. So, so I think we can shift to open source in our day-to-day, the tools that we are using for productivity. So anyway, so let's talk. Let us. Okay. Yeah. Just one thing. Kishore is asking about Creative Commons. Okay. So I shared a video about Creative Commons. So basically, Creative Commons is for creative work. Like say, it could be a video production, it could be a musical, it could be a song, it could be a instrumental, masterpiece, whatever. You create your own creations, so you can license it under Creative Commons, which is open source equivalent to either open source software licenses like the GPL, the MIT license, the Apache license, and you can also. So basically, Creative Commons are for the creative, fields, like the movie, video editing, movies, music, those kind of things, art, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'm open. So I think we should discuss, and so please let me know if there's anything that you want to ask me. Okay. So, Bhavan, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrongly, but yeah, Bhavan, I think, see, I'm not an animator. I don't use it for animation. But for using Blender, probably, it works on any system. But if you are from that, line, I would, that profession, then I would say that you can add all kinds of hardware that you require. If you already have them, you can use Blender. I think Blender is available for Windows as well as for, I think Mac as well as for Linux. I use it in Linux for my whatever editing I need to do. So I'm not a very I just try it for trying because I was introduced to 3D Studio Max I think 10 years back. So that I had. So I wanted something because I was replacing all the open source tools that I had encountered in my course of my study or course of my experience. So I was trying to find out what alternatives are there, and so I found Blender to be similar to the 3D Studio Max. So that's why I was trying it out. But I think if you have not already tried it out, Bhavan, please go ahead and try it out. You just need to download the software and use it on any system. I hope that answers your question, Bhavan. No restrictions in terms of usage, Bhavan. There are no restrictions. Okay, Kishore asks another question, which is there are a lot of open source softwares. Okay, there are a lot of open source softwares for free in the internet. That's fine. Yes. How these proprietary giants getting the market? Okay. See, basically the thing is this. Now, proprietary software giants who are dealing with proprietary software, they already have a major chunk of the market share. So what they do is they because it's not a they don't just play. They are not the single players. No, there are other players also. Like the hardware market is also there. So generally, what they do is they tie up with the hardware manufacturers and they bundle their software along with the hardware manufacturer. And the hardware manufacturers have to sell the hardware with the software. That's as per rules and regulations. As per law, it's required for them to do that. Okay, so they would bundle their software with the hardware manufacturers. When they are selling a laptop, a PC. And then when the user gets it, because the users generally don't complain when they get Windows there, and you are already used to using Windows because of the initial days of piracy, when software piracy was there, and I'm sure it is still there. But then we used to use pirated software only, Windows specifically, to Windows 3.1, 3.11, Windows 95, 98. So nobody bought those softwares, if I remember correctly, during my student days also. So young student days, that is, because I'm still a student now. So yeah, so none of that actually was. So we were used to that, since the piracy was also there. We were used to Windows, so we didn't want to change. So that's what happens. They make you used to their software, and they that's how you get hooked onto it, and you can't change. Hi, Rahul. Okay, not a problem. I'll just share the link again for everybody's benefit. So these are just videos that I've pulled up from the YouTube. Okay, these videos I don't claim to have made these videos. These videos I just pulled it up from the YouTube. So that's another thing. I mean, when YouTube is the biggest example of open source and Creative Commons license use. You see, when you download a video from YouTube and you check what the user has licensed it as, because when you upload videos on YouTube, if you've already done that sometime, you'll understand that you need to set your licensing option. You have to provide your licensing option there when you're uploading YouTube videos. So Creative Commons is greatly used there. So yeah, so that's Creative Commons again for you. Kishore is saying that mental stigma. Well, I think it's just I won't say it's a stigma, because everyone has a maybe, I'm not sure, but yes, but I think we have to realize that what we think today may not be what everyone is going to think tomorrow. So we have to be ready for that kind of a change. And one biggest thing that is coming our way for all the educationists and all the institutions of our country at least, is this massive change in our education system, school education system, which is one of the most important things. So I think we have to change in our thinking. So yeah, so maybe if it's a mental stigma, we have to get rid of it. Yeah, use open source. So I'm waiting for questions here. So yeah, if anyone wants to ask. Okay, Bhavan, yeah, this is a very good, question you are asking. And Bhavan asks this, as you mentioned earlier, that for almost every area, there is an open source community. So is there a community, say a genuine link list that we can refer to? Okay, see, Bhavan, thank you so much for asking this. Yes, there are several. There are several. And this is not a very new concept actually, open source. We had it in us. We had it in our fabric of society probably. But we have forgotten it, and that's, open source is all about sharing. It's about community living, and it's also about sharing your ideas. And see, there could be a lot of issues here. You can talk about that. I'm not an expert on the legal matters of this, but then what open source does is, open source, suppose you have written a software, for example, we have written a software and you have put an open source license on it. Now what the open source does, the cardinal points of open source is, number one is you can use it in any way that you want. You can copy the source, you can modify it, and you can enhance it, improve it, or make something absolutely new out of it, provided you give the same right, the rights when you are writing and changing the software and again distributing it, that right you are, as you have got it, that same right you are going to attach it with that particular, work that you have done, so that the others can also do the same. So that's how the open source thing works. And there are lots of models, lots of licensing are there. You can look it up. There's lots of resources available on the internet. This is not this is not what we are going to discuss because it's a long thing. But you can check it out, because MIT license, like I already, I think I had stated earlier, MIT license is there, Apache license is there, or OpenGPL license is there, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And there may be other licenses also. So you can have a look, and these licenses are also in such a fashion that, mostly it will cover this cardinal points that we just, discussed and stated. And also, Bhavan, I would want you to visit the Free Software Foundation. Let me just share that link also with you. I think if I have not, Free Software Foundation. This is, I'll share this link. This is another, this is where you can find out alternatives for all the tools that you may be using. All proprietary software tools and all that. So I think a good place to start would be here. I'm just sharing you the URL in the chat window. Alrighty. So, yes, so anything else you'd like to discuss? I would really like you to urge you to watch the video links that I've sent you. If you're not already, aware of the open source and, the concepts, I think those 2-minute, 3-minute videos that I have shared, those would help you understand. And I think that those will be the starting points for you if you're not already, if you're not already into open source. Yes, Dr. Dalima, yes, copyleft, yes. So copyright, we are aware of what copyright is, where the creator has the right to legally prosecute anyone who doesn't adhere to the copyright conditions that you give in either software, hardware, or any other forms. So it limits the innovation to the creator and the group of creators only who have the copyright. Okay, but copyleft would be, it is open. That's why they named it copyleft. It's the other way around. Yeah, copyright is going towards the right, and copyleft is going to the left. Basically, it's the other way around. It gives the power to the community. Windows, yes, Jibendu Datta. Okay, yes, Jibendu. Windows is not open source. Windows is a proprietary software. There are in the news some, certain, I think, intentions of Microsoft to make Windows 7 open source, but I'm not sure. It's not yet, I think it's not there yet. But the source is not available. Windows source, Microsoft has not revealed and made it open source. So it's a proprietary software, yeah. Waiting for your questions. Software as a service. Okay, so yeah, Dr. Dalima has given me some points. So yeah, we can discuss that. Okay, hold on. So okay, so there is something called SaaS or SaaS, software as a service. Then there's something called IaaS, that is infrastructure as a service. And there is something called PaaS. So I'm just looking up what PaaS is. So platform as a service, right? So okay. So we have software as a service, we have platform as a service, and we have infrastructure as a service. So what are these new, jargons? You can see in today's world we are filled with jargons, and this confuses us, and we think, what is this? I've never heard of this before, but there's nothing to it. I mean, it's just a fancy way of, putting things and saying that, this is what it is. But I'll tell you what it is. What do you mean by infrastructure? So now everything is related to computers and, networks, those kind of things. So infrastructure means now for any big IT company, for example, or not even IT company, it could be any company, there is a need for data storage, processing, and making the data available to its clients or users. So you need an infrastructure. Infrastructure meaning you need servers, you need the servers to be networked, you need to have a data center basically. Now maintaining a data center is not a joke. I mean, like, you need not only manpower, but the amount of investment that there needs to be in place for holding this, physical place and maintaining this physical place with, the power, the air conditioning, the, disaster recovery arrangements and all that, and also the IT connectivity. So there are lots and lots of expense involved here. So what companies have done is big companies like Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Microsoft, Oracle, all these big names, IBM, all these big names, they all have their huge, the setups everywhere around the globe. So now you see all of us, for example, we are using Gmail, for example. Now this meeting is also conducted on the Google platform. Now this Google has got their servers and data centers all over the globe. We don't know where our data is coming from. All these are interconnected. So for disaster recovery, they have all different disaster recovery sites. So, there will be multiple data centers, and each data center will have its own DR or disaster recovery mechanisms in place, so that they have a copy of, their entire data and setup in, other places. So in case it goes down, the others are there to back it up. So, I mean, it's a huge investment. So not all companies can have this kind of a setup, because that's not feasible in terms of economically, as well as in terms of the practicality of managing. So some companies like Amazon, Yahoo, or Google or Microsoft or IBM, they will have their data centers, and they would have physical servers they would have on this in these data centers, and they would create instances. There are some things like, Docker, if you have heard, I don't know, but okay, fine, you can just look it up. Docker is one of that kind of a platform where you can create virtual machines or virtual, instances of CPU, memory, and all that combined as one virtual, system that you can make it available for people to use as though they would connect to a physical system. But it could be that a physical server will have many of these instances running, and that would be made available to the client or the user. And so they don't need a physical server. So a company who wants to set up their own data center today, in today's day, they don't need to own a data center. They can just hire that, okay, I need say 1,000 CPUs. I need 2 terabyte of RAM each in this 1,000 servers. So that will be provisioned for that particular client. That configuration will be provisioned and given to the client, and the client can just log into those servers remotely and install and do whatever he wants. So that's infrastructure as a service. And platform as a service is another thing. Now, what is platform as a service? Now, what is platform? Okay, now certain software they would see that you would observe today is it's just the environment. Like, say, for example, I think the previous speaker had explained about Moodle. Now, Moodle is a platform, so you just need Moodle, right? You don't need Windows, Linux, or whatever on the server, and then you are not worried about that. You are just worried about Moodle, to use Moodle. So platform as a service will give you a platform, say like Moodle, or a platform where you can install Moodle. Okay, so you will just install Moodle and just use Moodle, and you're not bothered about what servers we have or where these are running actually. So that's one very vague example. I don't know if you are able to understand, but anyways, just I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. The other thing is software as a service. Now, software as a service also, like, say, suppose for example, there's you must have used Google Docs, like Google spreadsheet, and Google. I think it's Google Doc. So this directly run on the web browser. Right? So when it runs in the web browser, basically, though the data is coming to you, but you don't know from where your data is stored, like your Google Drive also, where the data is stored, you don't know the exact servers where your data is stored. They may be, Google might say that we are storing India's data in our data center located in India. So that Google only knows where our data is coming from. So that's how it is. So software as a service, example, Google Spreadsheet, Google Docs, Google Drive. Okay, these are apps. Then platform as a service would be in a very vague way, like Moodle. But platform generally is like you have Python. If you've heard about Python programming, you want to do, and you want to use that platform, like the Python platform, or maybe JBoss, Java platforms, and Node.js, Angular, all those kind of platforms you want to use. So that those could be platforms. And infrastructure will be like you have access to the logical server that is provided to you, and you use that server to do your own thing. Like you can do computation, you can run a website, but you are free to do that, and that's on the cloud. So all these things, SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, this all mean they are on the cloud. I hope that answers Dr. Dalima. Oh, Susanto, okay. Copy left, okay. So you know what copyright is, no? Copyright is where the creator has got the has the right to make all modifications and use it in whatever way the creators feel like doing. So that is copyright. So in case someone copies their idea and uses it as their own, they are the owners of the copyright have the liberty and the legal right to sue the users who may have copied the idea. So that is copyright. Like your intellectual property, like you have got a intellectual property or a patent you have on a certain design, on a software, on a hardware, you have patent. So if someone copies that idea, you have the legal right to sue them and to take action, legal action against these people. So that is copyright. So copyleft would be that you need to understand that the creators in copyleft, the creators give the users the right to modify, copy the design, use it as they like it, and also use it with modifications and improve it, but giving the author the credit. That is, we have to credit that, okay, so and so A has done this, I'm taking it, so I'm just improving it, but I give credit to the original creator as well. And then I should also give the same rights that I have received from the copyleft author, the same right to my users, that they can also do the same thing. So does that clarify, Sushanta? Okay, great. So Bijuli is asking, what is the difference between open source and free software? Okay, great question. See, this thing confuses us. This thing really confuses us. So let me clarify. Open source is the thought process. It's the thinking that I want to make my creation available to everybody to use, modify, enhance it, improve it. Okay. And free software is also another thought, but it's the same thing actually, but it has got some very strict rules and regulations, and cardinal principles are there. So they may differ a bit, but in general it means open source only. But free software, we have to understand, doesn't mean that it is free as in the cost, the money. That's not the actual meaning. Free as in freedom. That is what the proponents of free software, they say, that free means as in freedom. So why we are talking about freedom? Okay, this is why. This is very interesting. Freedom of using the software, freedom of modifying the software, freedom of improving and also distributing the software, my own version of that software, to others, and also giving those same rights to them as well, whom I'm giving. So that is freedom. In proprietary software, you don't get freedom. You are bound by what, say for example, Microsoft wants that software to do. You're bound by that. You can always suggest to them that, okay, I want this improvement and that, and they may or may not take that into account. But yes, they will not allow you to make any modifications. You don't have the right to do that. But in free software, you have the right. And free is not as in the price, but it is free as in freedom. Freedom to do. So does that clarify you, Bijuli? Okay, Kishore is asking, what is QR code and what that tags on any object? Is there any higher form above QR codes to protect the products from piracy in near future? Okay, Kishore, I think, see, QR code, we had barcode, if you remember, and barcodes were replaced by QR code. The simple reason being that QR code, if you look at the specification of what QR code is, I think we shouldn't go into the details, but just briefly so that we understand what it is. It is another form of tagging, so that the information is read by many devices, and the range of mapping information using QR code. QR code is not only for, say, products. It could be for anything. It could be your digital identification also, for people to be able to scan and find out your basic details. So it's based on your application. QR code is a coding system in terms of barcode, that kind of a coding system. But your application, it depends on your application. You can also design your own applications to use QR codes in whichever way you feel is best. So does it answer your question, Kishore? Okay, Mohanathan is asking, what about software in the public domain? Is it open source? I would just like to say that not all software in the public domain could be open source. Like mostly, I think you may know, you may be aware that there are certain software like called shareware, where these softwares are basically proprietary, but you can download and use them for few days or maybe a month or so, for a short period of time, for you to try and get used to it. And in case you like it, you will have to buy the license for using it, because that's how it goes. So not all software in the public domain is on open source. Open source basically will explicitly state, when you are downloading the software and you view the licensing schemes that it uses, it will be given there specifically in black and white that it's an open source software with either MIT license or Apache license or Creative Commons license or GPL license 1, version 2, version 3, so like that. So does it answer your question, Mohanathan? Okay, you're most welcome. So waiting for more questions, if there is any. Okay, while we are waiting for questions, just to oh, wow, okay. Dr. Dalami has asked a question, IoT or Internet of Things and its application in academic environment. Okay. Now, as per me, I think the applications are limitless. It's only limited by your own imagination. What is IoT now? Internet of Things. Okay, that we have to understand. Now, IoT is on another buzzword, I think, since 2000, mid 2000, I think maybe 2015 to 17, it started, appearing, and, a lot of things are happening, and you see a lot of IoT conferences and all that. But what is Internet of Things? Okay, Internet of Things means everything is connected to the internet, and, these are all sensors basically. So you must have heard, this is not science fiction anymore. Like your fridge is ordering eggs. If the eggs are finished and you don't have any eggs in the fridge, it will order eggs for you from the grocery store or the supermarket. And also it will look at the amount of milk you are consuming and so on and so forth. So the applications of IoT is definitely limitless, but in academic, if you ask, I think there are a lot of things we can do here. Number one is student attendance. If the student has an RF card, ID card with the student can have access to the library, to the, so many things, to resources that would verify his credentials, as well as his attendance and those kind of things, which we are, I think, already using in most of our, we are using biometrics as well as, RFIDs for these purposes. And also, they could be tracking the movement of your student in a class. There's so many things you can do. I don't know. There's so many things that I think you can do. There's limitless. But yes, you can think about it. There are a lot of applications, and actually this open hardware is going to help here a lot. Like you must have heard of Raspberry Pi, Beagle boards. This kind of that you can use to create your own. I mean, there's so many things that we can talk about. But I think if you ask me, one application of IoT in academic environment is to basically give students more access to resources and also monitor the movement as well as attendance and those kind of things. Yeah. Okay, QR code. Yes, QR code. Let me look at the thing. Yes, I think yes, it's a. What is QR code is? It does stand for quick response. You're correct. Yeah, I didn't remember that, so I had to quickly look it up. So yes, Jibendu, quick response code is QR code. Yeah, thank you. Absolutely, Vimal. I think, Vimal, you can please. I would be glad.
Thank you so much. I was enjoying your presentation. It was spontaneous, and you are really a master over open source. It was very informative for me. Thank you so much. I would like to just add, because my area of research is Internet of Things. Teachers, the IoT can be used, simple projects in academic environment right now is you can use it for attendance. For example, students can be supplied with RFID fixed ID cards. So once they enter into the campus, automatically it may be more applicable for school students. Once they enter into the campus, immediately a message can be sent to the parents that your student has gone into the campus. School children, particularly the children, the parents of children will be worried whether the children has gone to the school or not. While they have left them in the school van or something like that. So once they move in the campus, the students can be easily tracked where they are exactly. Even in the college, every hour we take attendance. You need not. Once the student enters in the class and all his presence is recorded and the teacher's attendance, everything can be recorded. That's one application. And the other one is in library. In library, all the books can be fixed with RFID enabled tag. So that every book, you need not register anywhere. Once you go into the library, you take up a book and you have an ID card. This RFID ID enabled ID card and the book that is fixed with RFID will speak to each other, and automatically the book that you are taking out will be registered automatically. So full-fledged automated library without any human intervention, that is also feasible in education. And the other thing, you can also use it for exams, for monitoring the students. That is also feasible by camera surveillance or biometric surveillance. That could be added, that could be embedded with IoT applications. So these are the few that those are simple applications where you can use it for attendance, examination, and for library as well, for educational sectors. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much for
yeah. Thank you, Vimal, for saving me there, because I probably couldn't come out with those things. But yes, and it's limitless actually. And thank you so much, Vimal. Dalimi is asking, Dr. Dalimi is asking, what would be the cost of RFID cards for a school of 1,000 students? Well, that we'll have to see probably, but it's now I think it's inexpensive at the moment, so it wouldn't be that expensive. But I think it will depend. It will depend what are the features you want, because it's not only the card, you'll need the reader as well. So and what is the application. So it will depend on the number of readers you have, where you are going to have, how many, what kind of a card you'll be using. So I think all these factors are there, but I would say that it is feasible. It is not very expensive. Yes, glad to be able to share my ideas and views and my experience with you. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dalimi. So, anything else? Okay. So, okay. So, Rahul is asking how we can secure our data using open source. Well, you see, most of the technologies that we use on the internet itself is built on open source software tools. So, by securing data, I would say there are a lot of ways. Now it depends on what data you're trying to secure. Is it online data, or is it files and local storage data that you want to secure? There are lots of ways to do it. Number one is, I would like to share, there is a project, Information Security Awareness, Education and Awareness, ISEA, which I'm sure you are aware of. In case you are not aware of, it's fine. I'm sharing you the link in the chat window. Please visit this website. Keep yourself updated regarding the latest threats to security, information security. Information security meaning all the information that you use on your computer or on the internet when your online presence, because all of us today have got our online presence, which is ubiquitous. I mean, like mobile phones, not only computers and laptops at home, but mobile phones. So your information is always, you are either tracked by apps to find out where you are, because if you notice, Google tracks you if you have the tracking on, and it can tell you last few hours or last week where you were, where all you went using your GPS data. So all those kind of things are there. So you need to be aware, and when you install apps on your phone, for example, you should not answer yes to all and just use it, because then you are allowing the app to access undue access. Like say, for example, an app which needs to do a calculation, for example, a simple calculator. It doesn't need to access your pictures folder, your media folder, or even to access your microphone. So these are certain things that we need to be aware of, and not just rely on, just take it for granted that, it's secure. So please visit this site that I have shared, which is infosecawareness.in, which is maintained by the Government of India. Now here, all the latest threats, all the, all the scams and everything, information is available here. And it's a huge store of that knowledge. So please visit that to keep yourselves, up to date regarding security. And Dr. Dalimi is asking regarding 3D printing. This is one of the most, interesting things probably you can also do. And that I'll just give you an idea. Basically, what happens is, now we also spoke about open hardware. Now apparently 3D printers can also be built by you if you are so much interested, and you're so much you have the urge to try and see. If you want, really, you can build a 3D printer as well on your own. So basically, and the 3D printers are also available for you to buy. It's not very cheap at the moment. It's quite expensive. But nevertheless, using 3D printer, you can, this open hardware design that we were, discussing a few, minutes ago. This open designs are available for you to download and, use a 3D printer to print out those designs. Say it could be a component, it could be anything, like say maybe the COVID-19, during this pandemic, people are using 3D printers to share their design of face masks and the PPE, that face cover that you get. So to build all those kind of things. So this is open source at the best, where the world is sharing all these designs and ideas between each other. And it's not that you just need a 3D printer to do that. You can look at the design and you can build on your own with whatever available materials you have. So now that is open source at its best, where people are all collaborating and coming together to do something for the community. And community doesn't mean, say, it's just our country, our state, our city. It's the world. Because I'm sure if you are interested in astrophysics and what space travel advancements are happening in for mankind, you may be aware that Elon Musk is planning, has got a lot of big plans to go and colonize Mars, and they have probably already sent a few rockets with essentials, and 2029, I think that's the year when they plan to send actual human beings to Mars. So yeah, so those are the things. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. So Bhavan is asking, in terms of academic journals, there are some extensions which enables us to download journals for free. Is it legit, and do we call it open source? Well, Bhavan, I think I may not be the right person to answer that, but you have to read the terms of the agreement from wherever you are downloading. Academic doesn't mean that it's open source. Okay, they have to specifically provide. Like, say, if you are providing a resource or a product or a document or whatever it could be, you are this resource, you're providing it online, and the terms of that will be dictated by the provider. So if it's an original work of the provider of that particular resource, then the provider will have some licensing terms mentioned in their website, or from wherever they are allowing you to access this resource. So there it should be clearly mentioned that it is open source, and it's free software, or FOSS, free and open source software, or the likes, Creative Commons license. So they should be clear about the licensing. So if they are not clear, then there could be a lot of other things that might follow, which I at this moment may not be able to exactly say. But yes, you need to make sure where the source from where you are downloading, just check with them whether they are using open source licensing. I hope that answers your question, Bhavan. So, okay, so these are some links. Okay, I think we should all get on with this open source thing, I mean, like in our day-to-day lives, I think you start by starting to use open source software, operating system, your productivity tools, you start using. And it's just a matter of picking up. It's you might feel that, oh, I don't know, I'll not know how to use. So see, I think there could be some teething, problems during the initial time, but you will eventually, understand the power of open source once you start using it, open source software, because the amount of options that you get while using the software is like you will experience freedom. Okay, anyone wants to ask something? So anyway, so I think I think I'm done with what I needed to say. I hope I'm being able to put across the concept of open source if you've not already been aware of this, and I'm sure you must have in some point of your careers or in some point of your day-to-day activities, you must have come across open source. You must be using them also. So I would urge you to just spread the word around. Use the whatever tools are available and try to replace all the proprietary software with open source, especially in education. I wouldn't say proprietary software is you should not use. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that I think this is something that we can let our children, the next generation, take it on. Because you are free to decide whether you want to use proprietary software or whether you want to use open source software. Everyone has to have that freedom. We cannot say that only use open source, don't use anything else. No, that's not, I think, what we should do, because proprietary software, also great developers and designers are there. They are doing great work. So much of effort they are putting in. So that's also another thing. So it's just the model. The model is different, because it's not that the way I think, that's how everybody should think. That is not the right thing. We should be open to all kinds of ideas and, take the best one and then move ahead. I think that's how, as a human society, we are going to progress. And I think that's very important for us to make that change, or start making that change in the thought process. And it's really very, encouraging and very, very, very positive to know that the government of India has actually gone about taking this initiative of changing the entire education system. Though there could be a lot of issues, because we have a lot of other issues also. I mean, like, we have social problems, we have so many things India has to grapple with. But I think it's a step in the right direction. And the idea that there is no science, commerce, arts, and those kind of divisions, you're making like division, in our thinking. No. I think if you're interested in physics and you are also interested in accountancy, I think you should have the right to, or the option to choose what you want to learn. Because as human beings, we cannot limit our things. We have so many things that, so many aspects of our dimensions. So I think that's great. And thank you so much for inviting me for this discussion. I hope I was able to, point you to the direction of, accepting open source and trying to use it for your own, enhancements in your careers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your wonderful session. And now I'd like to request Mr. Bikram Barua to offer vote of thanks to Mr. Nanu, sir. Over to Mr. Bikram Barua.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Dalimi. Thank you, Nanu, sir. Already I told in the initial that he continuously advocate the usage of free open softwares in IIT Guwahati. So I hope the sessions have paved in a new way, like cyber security, Internet of Things. This open source is also a new arena where we will be getting the ideas. So thank you, Nanu sir, for your deliberations and addressing the professors, faculties from different colleges of Assam and also India. So
thank you. My pleasure, and really wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me here. It was a great pleasure to be here. I'm honored. Thank you.
Okay. Tomorrow's session is at 1:45 p.m. So Dr. Gerald sir will be continuing. Okay, thank you all participants. Thank you on behalf of Arya Vidyapeeth and National Power Training Institute, Guwahati.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Nanu sir, thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye, sir.